Hey Daniel, hi James, how you doing? Hope you're both well. Well, this is one of the pipes that I sold recently, and I'm so enamored with this pipe that I decided to make myself one. Hey Josh, that pipe, Daniel, I'd be wanting something like £300 for it, but I'll do you a better price. Probably looking at about £250 for that big red pipe. So this pipe sold a couple of days ago, and in my mind today, I thought it was a different pipe that sold, and I thought I was actually going to light this one up tonight. And I checked my records just because I didn't want to make a mistake. And it turns out that, hey Meeks, haven't seen you in ages, I hope you're well. Turns out that this pipe is sold. It's a 2-star. And I'm even tempted to make it a 3, but I'm not going to. It would be my first 3 if it was, but I'm not. It's really, really nice. It's got lovely, lovely grain. And but it's sold, so it's going to its new owner. But I'm going to make myself a similar one. Daniel, send me an email. We'll work something out. So this block here, I've got a couple of blocks which I'm saving for myself. If you guys remember when I first started making pipes, hi Brian. When I first started making pipes, the first batch of straight briar blocks which I bought were from Ian Walker at Northern Briars. Beforehand, I'd only bought kit blocks, the ones which were pre-drilled. Tonight I'm smoking my recent egg that I made, and I'm smoking Orlik golden sliced. So I think all in all, I got from him about 20 blocks, maybe 25 blocks. Used them up pretty much straight away. But I know that his blocks are aged. You know, some of them could be 20 years old, maybe more. So I put away 2 or 3 blocks for myself. And so this is one of those blocks. I think I might have 1 block left. I probably will get in touch with Ian and ask him if he can spare me another few. Hey Boris, how you doing? In terms of mortar, Daniel, I'll probably do something similar to what Jason Mouton said, which is to make a lined pipe, maybe lined with briar. They're just, I don't know. To be honest, I don't know, because that's a skill which I haven't learnt yet. But I don't know if I'd make another mortar or not. Maybe I would. I mean, so far the ones I think I've given out or sold 3 mortar pipes, and 1 came back which I had to repair, and the others are okay. So maybe I will. We'll see. I don't know. They really look nice. I do like the way they looked. But the thing that I did was that the ones that I'd sent, I hadn't put a bowl coating on. So maybe if I do make them, I'll put a really decent bowl coating on them so that they don't get burnt out. I'm sorry to hear that, Meeks. Condolences. I hope you're okay, and I hope you're coping with it okay. $149. That's the big, that big sort of full bent pipe you bought, isn't it, Grobnob? That's a good pipe. Mortar can come in several sort of different sort of shades, from black all the way to a golden brown. You can get black, different shades of grey, and as I say, you can go to a golden colour almost. Sabbath was very nice, a bit wet today. I got a little bit of a sting in my foot. I get a little bit of gout every so often. Thankfully not too serious this time. It's just like it feels like almost a pinched nerve. It's like somebody grabbing hold of a chunk of your skin and pinching at it constantly. But it's hopefully fading. Anyhow, so I'm going to drill this. If you guys don't mind me working while we're talking, that would be cool. I had to use the long bit because the shorter ones that I've got were just a little bit too short. This is the shorter one. And if I would have marked it off, by the time I got the tape on it, I'd have had a tiny bit to grip in the chuck. So it's not ideal using those ones because they flex quite a bit. At the moment, I'm drilling them at. I did try a few at 4.8 mil, but I've settled on 4.5 mil, and that's what I'm doing from now on, unless I'm working on a particularly narrow shank, maybe. I just realised that I'm not going to get much room to shape this. This shank is a bit longer than it ideal, but I'll get some of it shaped. I got a little package in the mail which I'm going to open soon. Once we get over to the desk, we can resume a bit more of a, unless you'll allow me to do sanding. If you'll allow me to do sanding, then I will. But this London calling is for you guys, so it's your decision really. But this one is not too noisy, so I can talk while I'm working on this. That does have merit, Daniel, to a certain extent, what you're saying. If you've got a much bigger bowl, and the bowl is bigger, let's say the biggest bit that I use is 22 mil, but generally it's 20 mil for most pipes, then yes, it would make sense to have a slightly bigger draft commensurate with a bigger size of the bowl, and it would just help to keep the pipe lit. but 4.5 is good enough anyway, so maybe I'd jump it up to 4.8 if it was a really big bowl. It's not so much the size of the pipe, it's more the bowl size, the chamber. Because if you think about it, if the chamber is exactly the same size as it would be on a small pipe, then internally it shouldn't make a huge amount of difference in terms of drawing through the pipe and so on. If it was a very long stem, then maybe I'd consider making that a little bit wider or something like that. But generally speaking, 4.5 is fine, and it's fine anyway. A tapered bowl, the ones that I've had, that I've smoked, particularly from Boswell pipes, have smoked very, very well. I think they're more challenging in some ways, and in some ways they're easier. So for instance, when you've got a tapered bowl, a V-shaped bowl, mine are generally U-shaped at the moment. I did try my hands with a UV type bowl, which is this one here, but this bit, it just gave me a lot of hassle. I spent a lot of money on it. I really ought to send it back, but the problem, not a problem, but this is kind of a U, but it's quite pointy at the bottom. So getting the draft exactly lined up can be a bit challenging. And with the V ones, it's even more, because it really comes to a point. Right, I'm just going to put this pipe down. And let's see if we can get this chamber drilled. Hi, Jimmy. That's very kind of you. Thank you for your kind permission. And one noggin, good evening, how are you? Do I use regular stain? I use Fiebing's leather stain, which is what the vast majority of pipe makers that I know use. Although people like Ian Walker, these kind of people here in the UK, I think they use powdered stain, which they mix up themselves. I'm far too lazy for that. People do whichever way suits them, Daniel, and this is the way I've always done it, and it's the way that suits me best. There we go. Perfect. It's always very nerve-wracking. Those last few turns on the bowl is very nerve-wracking because I'm always in the back of my mind thinking I haven't done the draft long enough and I'm just missing it and going way past it. And it always sigh a deep breath of relief when it hits, and it's hit it. Thankfully, it's hit it perfectly. What I do is when I line up the draft, I don't know if you can see the lines here, but there's two lines. So I've got the line of the stem, and then I've got the line of the drill. So in this case, the drill, and I'm not too bothered about it because it's for me, it's going to be quite high because of the bend, and it's quite a steep bend there. But it's in the zone, and what I do is I'll just make a little ramp in the end of the mortise just to widen the hole, and it will be absolutely perfect. So I'm very happy with that. It's perfectly drilled for me. So now we'll try and do a bit of the. Needs to go far enough, but not too far. Exactly one noggin. Challenging part to make the pipe, is it drilling or sanding or shaping? To be perfectly honest with you, none of it is rocket science, but it takes practice. I think, if I had to be honest, nerve-wracking wise was that bit you just saw now. Challenging wise has got to be the sanding, the final shaping, especially with classic shapes. Trying to make a billiard, which is the most oft made pipe shape, I think is probably the hardest pipe to make out of the whole lot. And I've sort of made a few recently, and they are very, very challenging to make indeed. So I think shaping, ultimately, is the answer to that question. Shaping in a disciplined way is really the answer. Just freehand shaping, yes, you've got to get your shaping down pat so that it looks symmetrical and it looks good. I mean, this is a freehand pipe. I mean, essentially, I suppose it's not. You could call it an apple. It is an apple, really. But getting it so that it looks symmetrical and it looks neat, and the roundness works out well, that's really the challenge. And getting the grain, doing the best that you can with a shape so that the angle of the grain is enhanced. So there you can see it's lapping up the sides of the bowl. That's what it's, it's everything really. But for me, I think shaping is where it's at. And this one just worked out super classy. Very, very happy with that one. So being as happy as I was with it, I wanted to do something similar. Yeah, you might be right in the long term, Daniel, about that. But in the stage where I'm at, which is fairly new, I'm still getting used to that. And there are carvers out there who've been carving for 10, 15 years, and they're still learning. So it's I find it to be a very challenging shape at my particular juncture. An artisan pipe maker is somebody who's generally an independent person who works on his own. How he does it, what tools he makes, doesn't really matter. He could use a phrasing machine, doesn't really matter. He's still an artisan pipe maker. You might consider him less of an artisan pipe maker if he uses a phrasing machine, but not if he uses a drill bit or a chisel to make the chamber. No, not at all. Not in my opinion anyway. I've never heard that before. freehand technically is a pipe which is not dictated to as a classic shape, and it's just, as you say, by the whim of the carver. But it tends to be used for pipes which are a departure from classic shapes. So even though this is an apple, some people might call it a freehand. You know, obviously this the stem, the shank sort of finished. That's very freehandy kind of look. Technically, I don't know how many people actually make freehands. I mean, I suppose people who make new shapes, things like that, which have no classification, no designation, would be a freehand. But I think most people call a freehand something which doesn't look like a classic shape. Whether that's right or not, I don't know. I'm going for a curved rim, so I'm not doing I'm doing that by hand afterwards. In terms of the grain, I think this one is going to be more of a flame grainy kind of thing, with lots of sort of flames licking up the side of the bowl as opposed to a straight grain. And the shape will suit it better. Hey OCD, how you doing? Hey Paul, how you doing? Canted bowls, well, Daniel, I'm not a fan. I make some pipes which are slightly canted occasionally, but personally, for my own smoking preferences, I'm not a fan of canted pipes. To me, they're counterintuitive. You can't see what you're doing, you can't see what you're lighting. It just doesn't work for me. From a collector's point of view, from aesthetics point of view, very cool. So I'll make it, you know, if that's what people want, but it's just not as I say, it's not a smoking advantage, certainly, to have a canted pipe. And, you know, you're certainly going to burn the back edge of the rim with a canted pipe, because the heat's going to be travelling upwards. And if the bowl is canted like that, or say this is the rim here, and it's on an angle, and that's the top edge of the rim, and that's your ember here, you light that, the heat's going to be rising. The heat's always going to go up. The heat's not going to go out at an angle, the heat's going to go straight up. So it's going to burn the top edge of your bowl. Right, I think that's as far as I can go on the lathe, so we're going to take that off. Whoopsie daisy. Oh, dear me. Getting old. Getting old. Backward, really fast. Just oh right, okay. So in case you haven't seen the workshop for a while, give you a quick tour. There's the lathe, and the chisels and the mops and the drill bits. And that's all the stuff that I'm using to handle the drill bits and stuff like that, which I have quick access to. There's the stem that I'm going to be using. Really cool swirly stem. There's the bandsaw. There's the extractor, which keeps, I don't know why, but the bag keeps popping off and the room gets filled with dust. Grinder. That's a new addition. That's all my bits and the stems in there. And this is the desk. This is where it all happens. And there's my sanding thing, which used to be next to the lathe, but now is at the desk. Leather wrapped pipes. I can't see myself doing that, to be honest. It's too fiddly, and it's a skill which I've certainly not got at the moment. Anyway, piano pipe. I haven't seen you in a while either. Hi, welcome. So what I've done with this one, somebody pointed out, one of the people who had bought one of my pipes a while back, one of my older pipes, noticed that when he drew on the pipe, that the filter sometimes had a bit of a piston action. The filter would, as you sucked on the pipe, what's going on here? Thinking maybe a bit of the glue was still a bit tacky. And the whole thing's crumbling. I'm going to have to drill that out, I think. Yep. Anyway, so basically I measured this one really close, and that's probably why that's gone unstuck, because it was pushed into the yeah, probably that's why. I'm thinking I don't have my cordless drill out here. I might have to go inside and get that. I mean, I don't need it right this second, but we'll have to do that. See, this is the briar, which, as I was saying before, from Ian Walker, a little bit darker than the Italian briar. Absolutely, Chad. But that is what I'm aiming for. I'm aiming to try and get it really close. I'm always trying to perfect what I'm doing. So as soon as I keep saying to people, you know, please send me feedback when you get the pipes, because I know that they're not going to be, you know, made with the same experience as somebody who's been making pipes for 10, 20, 30 years. So it's really important that I get feedback, and I welcome it, even if it's you know, criticism. You know, as long as it's constructive criticism and people are not, you know, trying to shoot you down, I welcome it very much. I mean, you know, ultimately I want people to be happy with it, with the pipes that I'm selling. That's going to be a really big bowl, and I've got to really be careful not to take too much off the bottom there. Not a lot in it. That's a good question, Daniel. I think that the pipes are inspired by everything that I see, but I think that there's a certain English bent to them. I don't mean that in terms of bend, but a certain English inspiration to them in terms of their conservatism. So they are. Hey, Sea Smokes. Hey, Eric. So there is a certain conservative aspect to them, but still, I try to bring flair to it as well. I think you guys are all zoomed in, yeah. So it's really important to me that the pipes are relevant nowadays. I'm not looking to make a Dunhill billiard most of the time. Obviously, occasionally I'll do that as well, but that's not what I'm looking to do. So I'm looking to do a take on pipes which are, like I say, it is an apple, or even an egg, but it's got something going for it. There's something different, you know. It's shaped perhaps more in a Danish kind of way, but there are some classic shapes. I just want them to be interesting. I want them to be relevant nowadays, and that's basically my philosophy in pipe making, is to make the pipes interesting, based on classic shapes, but with flair. That's essentially what I'm doing. Is there a shape that I want to explore? I think I've still got to get my head around diamond shanks, for sure. Excuse me while I wet my whistle. I had a coffee. Somehow I managed to spill it all over the floor. Not quite sure how, so I didn't notice myself doing it, but I did it. Okay, so I need to ask you again, everybody, are you okay with me doing some sanding? Or do you want to just leave it as normal London calling and chat? I'm okay either way. Obviously, if it's sanding, it's going to be noisy. You'll want to turn your volume down. Most of the time I'll be doing hand sanding anyway, but I may be on this for about, I don't know, 10 minutes or so, something like that. So if you guys can say either aye or nay, I'd appreciate it. Or thumbs up or thumbs down, yes. Meeks, thank you. I'll bring the phone over so you can see what I'm doing. Sanding is okay. All right. Still haven't unpacked the disc sander. Hey Tam, how you doing? I'm replicating this pipe tonight. I'm making one similar to this. It won't be exactly the same, but similar. And this is where we're up to so far. So I'm going to be sanding for about 10-15 minutes, volume down, and then we'll get back to chatting at the table. Oops, indeed. The joys of not having a motor. My motor is still with that electrician. He's had it for nearly 2 weeks, and he's basically yanking my chain. just bear with me a second. I'm going to put you on a tripod so you can see what's going on. Oops. Right, I'm just going to wet the block so you get an idea of what it's going to look like, grain-wise. So there's the shaping, the rough shaping done, a little bit more than rough. So a really nice flame grain on that side, and this side is more of a sort of spread out flame. A little bit of bird's eye on the heel there, and you've got the grain going along the shank, which is really quite cool, like that. And yeah, very happy with that. This is the one that I've sold, and this is, let me just zoom out a bit. So that's the one I was modelling on, that's sold, and this one is a bit taller, that same kind of idea. I was actually aiming to make a slightly smaller one, but I ended up making a bigger one. Hey Andrew. Yeah, the grain looks like it's going to be really, really good. So one side better than the other, which is often the case. So that's one side there, which is really gorgeous. And this is a bit more flamey on that side. So, now we're down to the hand sanding. I've got to do a little bit with the Dremel. So I'm going to move you across to the table, if you bear with me a second once again. Yeah, I hope that did help moving the tripod so you got a better view. I didn't feel comfortable with you just watching the back of my hand, so I can't expect you all to hang around and not to see anything. So I hope that was better. Right, I'm just going to put this back on the table tripod. There we go. I'm not sure if I've tried Tashkent. I hear very good things about the Tashkent. It's a English blend, Latakia blend, isn't it? You certainly did catch a glimpse, didn't you? The eagle-eyed amongst you. So I'm just going to do a little bit of dremeling just on the junction here. Right. Although on the somebody asked about the sand grit before, the grit of the sandpaper. So when I'm doing the main shaping from rough, I start with this wheel, and that's 40 grit. It's a very, very rough grit, that 40 grit. So that really takes off a lot of briar, and that's very good for getting the rough shaping done. I used to then, on this wheel, change it up to sort of 80 and then 120 and 220, and I don't bother with that at all. I just get the main shaping done, and with experience, you kind of can use, even at 40 grit, you can just adjust the amount of force that you use in terms of how heavy the cut is going to be on the briar. So you can actually get pretty good shaping done just with that. And you saw I only use this for the main shaping. And then when I'm doing the finer shaping, I change down to that small thing, which I start off at 120 grit on that small one. It's a 50mm sander, so I start at 120, and then I go to 220, and then 400, and then I'll go back to 320 by hand on hand sandpaper. So the 400, although I won't finish with it because I'll do it by hand, but it gives me a good base, a good smooth base, and then I can just use the 320 to get rid of any rough spots. I've still got this area here, this junction here to do, because I can't get in there with the wheel without damaging other parts of the pipe. So the rough shaping with that I'll do with the Dremel, and then sanding. So that's where we're at. So for this area here, I'm going back all the way down to 180 to get that shaped. It depends what sanding wheel you've got, Andrew. If you've got a plain one like this, if you can get into the junctions, then great. I would also. It's just certain pipes, depending on the shape, because this is so fanned out, so it's really close. So I can't, there's a limit to how far I can go with the wheel. So all I'll do is I'll curve this round, and it gives me a nice curved shape in there, and just sand away, and it will find the shape. Just got to make sure that it stays curved, that's the only thing. Do I sand inside the bowl? Not usually, no. I prefer a rough finish, although what I tend to do is when I've finished cutting the bowl with a drill bit, I'll then turn the lathe on high speed and just leave it there without turning it, so it's not drilling, but it will just smooth out any ridges. But I don't sand it. I actually prefer having a rough edge. I think the cake builds up a lot better that way. Obviously, you don't want to have major ridges in there. It's got to be a circle, it's got to be round. You don't want to have complete, jagged edges in there, because obviously then you're not going to have a nicely rounded bowl. Obviously it's got to be round. It's just not sanded, that's all. I do work fast though, CD, sometimes too fast. Yeah, I mean, you got to be really careful with the junction. $320. Yeah, no reason why not. I'm just not a huge fan of the pipe. I mean, the shape is nice and everything. I just don't like the way Savinelli make the stem, but in terms of a shape, it's great. got a couple of sandpits there, which is okay because I'm making this pipe for myself. So. And as you can see, it's this line here, which I really take care of. I just like that to be a nice sweeping smooth line all the way around, and it's turning out pretty well. You're right, Josh, but I really did set out to make this for myself, which, like I said right at the beginning, I've made this with one of the very few blocks that I've got left from Northern Briars, which I've saved for myself to make pipes for myself. And I've got literally 2 or 3 blocks, and that's one of them, so I use them very sparingly. So if I sold this, I would sell it at a major premium, but I really am intending to use it myself. That certainly was the intention. And you're right, I mean, I've intended to many times and ended up selling them, but you see there are these 40s about which are not stubbies. Yeah, there are DJs. I looked at the ones on Alpesia's website, and there's a couple of 9mm there. I was thinking about it, but I decided against. I'm not really in the market to spend that kind of money. They're a premium for the 40th anniversary. They're like an extra €100 over the normal prices. So to pay the extra 120 euros for the silver ring, essentially, and the fact that it's got a stamp saying 40th anniversary, I'm not a collector like that, in that way. You know, real collectors will jump at it, they'll salivate at the fact that it's got something different on it. It's just not me. I can do something like this, you know, I'm at the stage now where if I really fancy a particular pipe, that I can set out and do my best to replicate it and make it myself. It doesn't mean that I won't buy pipes, I do. I've actually got a few custom orders, you know, on the go at the moment. I've got one on the go in Germany, I've got one coming from America which is on its way, which I'm very, very excited about. And I've got another Northern Briars on the way. So, I mean, I'm still, you know, I still am really enthusiastic about it, and I love buying pipes. I've bought another Pipe of the Year Stanwell, which is on its way, off eBay. Hopefully that will be a really nice pipe. I really do like the Stanwells, the Pipe of the Year Stanwells. I think they're great pipes. I sold the Northern Briars 60th pipes, yeah. But I sold them at a price which was just, I couldn't turn it down, you know. Like I said, I'm a collector, kind of, not really. It's more about the smoking, but some pipes are really special, and I've never smoked those. And there are some, very few pipes that I kind of call myself a collector of, and those two were 2 of them. So I haven't smoked them. But the price I was offered on them, it would have been stupid not to take it. For those pipes to have the value that I got for them, would probably take 10-20 years to accumulate that kind of value. So sometimes you just have to take the opportunity when it arises. And I didn't like seeing them go. Right now they're probably flying across the Atlantic right now as we speak. And the same person bought a bunch of my Stanwells as well. Guy spent a fortune on with me at the time. Well, a fortune, but he bought about 8 pipes from me. He also bought the Soren Refberg freehand that I never smoked because I couldn't convert it. If you remember the one I bought in Zurich, gorgeous pipe, faceted, freehand, had everything going for it. But that one was a bit easier to let go because I wasn't smoking it, and I couldn't really And it could have been done, but it would have meant the pipe not being the same pipe anymore to convert it. So that one was a lot easier for me to let go. But the 60th ones, those are really, really hard. I am still looking for a Costello. I sent back the Costello that I got from GQ. I sent it back. So yeah, I sent it back together with 8 pipes, which he's bought from me, which will be going on the website soon. Oh, nice, Andrew. Very good choices, really good choices, especially the Coney one, as you know, that's my favourite cigar. And the Partagas, the P2s, also really good cigars. Any of the Pyramides, I think, are very good. They're nice cigars. They're a nice vitola. They're an enjoyable cigar to smoke. I do find that they tend to be a little bit softer, the Pyramides, because of the way they're made. I haven't bought cigars for a while. The last batch I bought were a few boxes of the La Flor de Cano Spanish Regional Edition. And they're actually pretty good. I think they're 2019s. And I've had 1 or 2. And they're not bad. I mean, they'll be really nice after a few years. Whether they last that long or not, I don't know. Did you get them from I Havanas, Andrew? Yeah, I mean, there is a difference. You know, some people, they smoke Cuban cigars and they just don't get it, and they think it's bland, there's no taste, there's no flavor. And if you always smoke strong, full, peppery non-Cubans, then yes, I would fully understand your sentiments on that. But once you get used to smoking Cubans and you get those sort of real Cuban flavors, and you kind of get used to them and you know what you're expecting, there's nothing quite like it. It's not to say it's better, it's just what I prefer. Should I go and get a cigar? Quite like the idea of going and getting a cigar and getting a coffee. I managed to get some more Blend 131 because GQ's run out. I got a few tins from Smoke King. I haven't got any Bolivars at the moment, but I have smoked them. I do like the Bellicoso Fino, which is a very nice cigar. This is where we're at the moment. So that's the one I was modelling it on. This one is actually quite a bit bigger. Didn't realise. It wasn't supposed to be originally, it was supposed to be smaller, but you know, when you've got a piece of briar, it's a shame to lop off the top. And I have been, I mean, this is obviously going to be a pipe to sit at home and smoke, to take on vacation and enjoy in the garden, that kind of thing. And I certainly intend doing that with gusto. Hi Voodoo. Yes, it is soft on the sanding side. There's a little sponge, and what that does is that it enables you to, you know, keep that shape going, and to round off any ridges and things like that. It works very, very well. A lot of people who have seen me using this, they are surprised that I use a sanding block, but for me it works perfectly. I've got 2 of them, so I've got 1 spare in case anything happens to it, because I really wouldn't want to sand with anything else. I've got other types of sanding blocks, but it just works for me. You know, everybody has to do what works for them. It just softens everything down, you know, having that spongy bit. What did you think of it, Boris? Are you a fan? Do you get that flavour, metallic flavour that people talk about on the bolivars? Ooh, I almost forgot. I got a package today from Jordan. We'll see if he comes in. I'd like to open it when he's here. It's only fair. We'll see if he comes in. If not, I'll open it soon. What are we? Wow, it's 20 to 2. You know something, when I'm making a pipe, I just completely lose track of time. Okay, so I'm not going to start a cigar because it takes too long, but I will have my pipe. I'm in the middle of a pipe of All It Golden Sliced. I'm just going to nip in and make a coffee. I'll be back in a jiffy. Coffee in hand. Sorry for keeping you. One of these days, Andrew, you got to do a proper video of your tuna fishing. I remember there was a series on Netflix showing these guys catching tuna. Unbelievable. Very highly charged. Cheers, OCD. Has Jordan popped in at all? Anybody notice? If not, I'll show you his package soon. Tell you what, sandpaper is not cheap. It is not cheap at all. Most definitely am bending that stem. Of course I am. I mean, that's obviously got to be bent. It's going to come back and just have a gentle curve and probably end up somewhere around there. I'll usually bend it, sometimes I bend it right at the end after I've done the staining, and sometimes when I finish sanding and I'm about to stain, I'll bend it then and then remove it for the staining and add it back on later. Right, let me light my pipe and I can join you in a smoke. Anything left in there? This is one of the pipes that I made recently. A bit dusty. One of the eggs I made recently. Gave it quite a steep bend there. A little bit more than I usually would. I guess you could buy it in bulk, but not that you'll save a huge amount of money, I don't think. So what I'll usually do in terms of finishing the pipe, I will now sand it up to 400. I used to go mad. I used to go up to 1200, 1500, that kind of stuff. Waste of time. Absolute waste of time. If I was charging £1,000 for my pipes, maybe, I'll take it up to 400. Then I'll buff it on the wheel, which will get rid of any of the hairline scratches. And when it's been on the wheel and it feels absolutely smooth like a baby's bottom, I will then sand it by hand with 600 grit, and that's it. And that's where I stop. And then I stain. And that's it. Hey John, how you doing? Any of you guys bought Professor Walker's pipes? Curious to know what the finish is like. he seems to be moving on a pace. He had some. I think he's gone back to work now, but he was off, and he was knocking pipes out. No, I won't be filling them. I'm just gonna sand them, stain it, and I'll do the stainings to be sort of sympathetic to those pits, so you don't see them so much. And that's it. It's a pretty good piece of briar. I say this is one of the Northern Briars pieces that I've got. One of the 2 or 3 pieces I've got left, and they are a little bit darker. Actually, I can see it's a little bit heavy on this side. Yeah, I've seen Joe Case has been knocking out some pipes recently. He stopped making pipes about a couple of years ago, and now he's come back into it, and then he's reset up his workshop, so he's knocking out the pipes. He certainly did make some really wonderful pipes. I bought quite a lot of pipes off him over the few years. But I don't think I've got any left. I haven't got any of his pipes at the moment. None of them are 9mm. I did convert one and sold it. It was a poker. Yeah, they do come up from time to time, Josh. I've got to take a little bit off there. It's slightly, I don't know if you can see that. But if you have a look at this, this is now holding it straight. It's slightly, a little bit more there, if you can see that. The curve is not as steep as it is there, the roundness of it. Can you see that? So I've just got to take a little bit more off over there. Bear with me just a sec. Tell you what, this block would do a great sandblast as well. I don't know if you can see that. And you can see these lines here going across. That would be like a real spider's web. Can you see that ring grain there? On the other side too. Not as perfect as on that side, but it really would look quite cool. And it gets really quite tight as it goes up, so the rings are closer together. Hey Matthew. Might just have to do that. I'm certainly going to start that way, North Country. I'm going to do the normal contrast staining, see how it looks. And if it comes out really nice, then I'll just leave it. But the front edge here, the grain is not as great. It often isn't. But we'll see what it looks like in the final outcome. And there's one of my pipes is off to sandblasting now. Hopefully I'll get it back. It went on Thursday or Friday. I should get it back in the next few days. So I'll have a sandblasted pipe. And so that one may well be up for sale if I don't decide to nick it for myself. I am a bit of a sucker for a sandblasted pipe, even though I don't actually have that many. There you go, two of you get together, do a nice video, take us all with you. Why not? Actually, John, the last week or two I've actually slowed down. Although the other day I did put out 3 in one day, but they were obviously not all done in that day. There were 2 finished pipes. No, there was 1 pipe done on that day, 1 finished off and 1 tweaked. There we go. That's finally getting a proper U-shape. I couldn't get it before, but this 400 is just giving me that last bit of nice shaping there. Yeah, that shape now is there. You see that U shape there? I couldn't get it before, but it's really, really nice now. That last bit of sanding by hand has cracked it. Got a little bit of plateau there. little bit of decaf. It is 2 a.m. Right, I'm going to go for a quick buff on the wheel. I can take you with me. What am I looking for? Pigtail. This thing is so worn out. This was a 6-inch wheel. I need to get another one soon. Good night, John. Cheers. Okay, so now 600, and then we're ready to stain. Yeah, they do. They do lint, especially the thin ones, Andrew. I only use it, the thin one, when I'm trying to get into a junction or something like that. Otherwise, I don't use it. Because they're thin, they don't have structure. The thicker ones, they're buffeting against each other, so they kind of stay true. But that one, you could see it was buffeting around because it's thin. So you just have to work with it, that's all. Just try and find a clean piece of 600. Voodoo, I started making pipes in December 2018. I mean, I played around with kit pipes before that, with kit blocks. But I think I bought the lathe in December and I got it up and running in January. So around a year and a half. You don't need to buff before staining. I mean, I sand it again now. So if you're going to sand up to 600, it's kind of the same thing. But I find that just buffing it at high speed just helps get rid of some of those tiny little scratches that you can't always see. Show it up close, is this what you want? Yeah, there's definitely been an increase of people trying their hand at making pipes, no question about that. After buffing before you stain, it's important to sand anyway, even if you don't go up to 600, even if you stay at 400, which is fine. But you've got to sand it to reopen the grain, because the buffing closes it all down and clogs it up with the composite material, the compound rather. So you've got to sand it to open it up so that it will accept the stain. And I just use the opportunity to up it to the next grit level at 600, and it just gives it that little bit more smoothness. And what I've learned is that after 600, there's a limited return. The returns diminish in terms of smoothness, because with handling, you know, it's gonna get roughed up anyway over time when it's smoked. But I found that after 600, it does give you returns, so that when you finish a pipe, you send it to your customer, just smoke it. After a week or two, the sheen's gone, the carnauba wax is gone, your hand's been on it, your grubby hands and your oily hands, and that carnauba's gone. The smoother you sand it before you stain it, the smoother it's going to feel forever. Unless somebody takes sandpaper to it. So the smoothness, the finish of the wood itself, of the raw wood before staining, is the smoothness. So I've not found any real advantage to going up to 1,000 or 1,200, but going up to 600, I've definitely found an advantage. And the pipe just feels great in your hand, whether you've waxed it or not. So when you sell your pipe, and the wax is worn out, the pipe will still feel great. And I think that's actually really important. Well, it's very easy to get sucked in, but your work has got to come first, there's no question about that. Until you're at a point where you could consider reducing one and increasing the pipe time and not lower your income as a result, until you're at that stage, obviously your normal job has to come first, no question about it. But for me, during COVID-19 especially, when photography was basically dead, I just kept up with this because it was I was living on it, still am. It made a huge difference to my overall income, and it meant that I could keep paying my mortgage without problems. A lot of people were asking their mortgage companies for holidays, payment holidays and stuff like that. It meant I didn't have to, and I just could, keep my head above water, pay the bills. It made a big difference. So quite a distinct sand pit there, a couple of bits there. I'm not going to sand that more because I don't know where that goes and how bad that could be, so I'm not messing around with it. Yeah, absolutely, Andrew. I'm very thankful for it. Timing was perfect. And those couple of people who bought multiple pipes from me at one time also made a big difference, a huge difference. I was very, very lucky. I had two buyers who bought multiple pipes at the same time. They both each bought about 8 pipes or something like that. And now I've just sold 8 to GQ Tobaccos as well, so it all helps. It's really made a big difference. It also means that I'll be able to go away for a week, which I'm going to be doing with the family soon. We'll be going to the countryside somewhere. So looking forward to that, as long as COVID doesn't get bad again. It's definitely on the increase here in the UK, without a doubt. Yeah, I mean, we'll see if they sell, Andrew. If he has trouble selling them, he won't be buying any more. It's as simple as that. Interesting to see what price he puts them up at. It shouldn't be a lot different to what I've been selling them at, because I took a huge hit on the price, obviously. That's part of the course, it's just the way it goes. The one with the orange stem, now that doesn't tell me much. 170. Let me just search it, hang on. 170, yeah, that one is still available. Somebody did express an interest in it, but they wanted me to change the stem. I decided not to. I don't like, sometimes you mess around with stems, you end up ruining a pipe, so it is available, yes. That's a gorgeous, the grain on that is just quite unbelievable. It's a stunning apple. Came out beautiful, nice shape. And it's got one of these type of stems, really very, very nice. My pipes are all, they start their life as 9mm, but they can be regular. I can glue in the adapter so that it's absolutely fine and smoked without a filter. It's your choice. If you want it, Captain Clench, just email me, lcsbriars@gmail.com. I should have actually sent that to GQ as well. I don't know why I didn't. I think it was because I had them in a bag, because I went to show them to my brother and I hadn't taken them out of the bag yet. But that pipe would be a shame to have sold at the prices that I was getting, because it's a gorgeous pipe. Yes, Josh. Josh, you're on great form tonight, I'll give you that. Alright, so we're going to bend the stem, and then we'll stain. Actually, I should have brought the drill. Oh, I forgot. I'm not going to bother with that now. I'll do that I'll do that indoors. It doesn't stop what I'm doing. It doesn't change whatever I'm doing. I can still bend the stem. Yeah, I mean, people get really anal about the draft, being that smooth journey from the tip all the way to the bowl, and that's important. I'm not trying to minimize the importance of that, but many people have told me that they've smoked pipes, filtered pipes without the filter, and they haven't put the adapter in, and smoked absolutely fine. That was good. Important thing to do is when you're bending a stem is to put a pipe cleaner in, because when you bend it, the hole in the middle could actually collapse on itself. As you bend it, it could squash down, and you're actually reducing the diameter of the drill. So you put a pipe cleaner in, and that just maintains it. You also have to be careful not to bend it too close to the shank, because this one, it's got the 9mm tenon in there, and it can crack on it. So you just got to be careful when you're bending, not to bend too near to the shank. Right, so I've just dunked it in water, and that will harden the acrylic stem into shape. And there it is. So I'll still sort of sand it, and it'll be, I'll turn it still on the lathe with a buffer, so that'll just fine tune the shape a little. And the line here is perfect with the shank. Doesn't always work out spot on as you'd like, depending on if you've drilled the angles right, but it is absolutely spot on. The drilling is spot on. The only thing I've got to do is remove that back cleaner. Will I stain it black? The plateau, it's a good question. The plateau on this one, because it's a darker briar, it's not as clean, so I may well do that. Depending on, I might do it brown, a dark brown to match the stain. Depending, I'm going to go for the contrast stain now. I'll do that in a second, and I'll probably just do that brown, and then I'll probably shellac that edge. You can use fire. This is just the way I do it. I think there's a bit more of a risk with fire that you could end up really melting it, but it's just the way I do it. I feel I've got more control, and I'm just happier doing it this way. Just realised it's the first time I'm putting gloves on during the whole process of making this pipe. Yeah, I suppose I could fill it with a bit of glue or something like that. I don't use filler or anything like that, as I said, I'm making this one for myself, so I'm not really that bothered, to be perfectly honest with you. I don't generally fill. I mean, I could maybe just fill it with a little bit of sawdust and glue. I'm going to do the stain first and see how it looks. So I'll leave that section darker, and you won't really notice it much. You can use hot water, yeah, but it's a much slower process till the heat penetrates and really gets it pliable. So I think what the bigger companies do when they're working with 50 pipes at a time, for instance, they have a special rack made with 50 slots in it, and they will have like a gas fire at the bottom, and it maintains a certain temperature, so they can take them out as and when they want, and the stems are pliable. Obviously, once it goes beyond a certain temperature, they start to flop because they're too soft, so it's controlled, and they can just take the pipes out when they're ready to bend them. I would never pre-bend a stem because it's got to match the shape of the pipe. So unless you're making factory pipes where every single pipe is identical, there would be no point in pre-bending a stem. Every pipe made by an artisan pipe maker is different, slightly different. Even if they're made to be identical, they're always going to be slightly different. Yeah, once there's a few coats on there, then I will flash it with a flame just to burn off the alcohol, and it also helps the stain to really get into the grain. But initially, the first few coats, they just get absorbed straight away into the briar, so there's no point doing it. So what I'll probably do with this plateau is I'm doing it in the dark brown, but obviously you can't then sort of sand it back without losing the shape of it. So what I'll probably do is I'll just sand the tips of the nodules of the tips of the plateau, and sand those to match the lighter parts of the main pipe. So that should work well. And on the pipe that I modelled it on, I kept, there's a few little drops of plateau on the top there, you can see on the edge. I decided on this one to take it beyond that and just make a smooth rim, and I think it really works well. So the plateau is a little bit sort of on its own on this pipe, it's not really matching anything else. But no, I think it still works. When you've got a fanned out sort of shank face like that, finished with a plateau looks good. You have to be lucky with that, Andrew. It's got to have a nice balance to it. That one that I just showed you doesn't really. There's only got the remnants of it, but I just decided, I can't remember why, but I just decided for whatever reason not to take it any further back. I suppose I could have done and gone for a completely smooth bowl, but it has character. No, I don't pre-weigh it. It's a good question though, and you'd have to be able to estimate how much you're going to take off the block and what it will be left, what it will weigh once you've removed and done all your sanding and shaping. So at this stage, no, I don't pre-weigh them. But I guess if somebody wanted to have a pipe which was a certain weight, you know, if I had a block which was 60 or 70 grams, it would probably be okay by the time I finished. So it's still really absorbed, so it's not flaming up very much. It flames up on the shank because there's loads of it nestling in the plateau, but the briar is still absorbing a lot of this stain, so it's not flaming up yet. You can see the grain popping through already. It's got quite a distinct grain. I suppose I should start using a brush of some kind because it's a bit tedious with a pipe cleaner. Well, the one that I'm holding now, I can tell you, is probably about 120 grams. Something like that. By the time it's finished, it'll probably be that kind of region, maybe even a bit more. You just kind of get used to the weights. So, I mean, this really is in kind of magnum territory. Not quite, but not far off. Once it starts to take on this deep colour, looking almost like it's black, that's when I know I'm almost there. Yeah, there is a bit of an issue with that, Andrew. If you have really extreme temperatures, the issue is when you drill it, or when you, it's not so much the drilling, because your drill bit is the drill bit, that doesn't fluctuate. But if you, for instance, drill it, and if you're using fixed sized tenons like I do, and you're not making the tenons yourself, not such a problem. And as long as you've got your drill bit and your tenon size, and you always use the same ones and they work, shouldn't be an issue, because when the wood expands and contracts, it should all still be around that same size. But when you're making the tenons yourself, and you make it a snug fit, and say it's freezing cold weather when you do it, when the weather warms up and the shank expands, you won't be able to get the tenon in, or vice versa. If you're making it in really hot weather and the wood is expanded, and you drill it and you make your tenon, and then it gets freezing cold and it contracts, the tenon will fall out, the stem will fall out. So that is an issue when you've got extremes. I haven't experienced it here because in England we're blessed with fairly constant rubbish weather. And also, because I use 9mm tenons, I have a bit of flexibility built in because they're 9mm, so they actually are flexible because they're hollow. And I drill them a little bit tighter so that even if it does get loose, it's fine. So there's a bit of an advantage there. But yes, that is something you need to be aware of. No, I don't do a dress finish, although each time I get to this stage of staining a pipe, I always think to myself, well, that looks pretty good as a dress pipe. The only real reason to do a dress pipe, and let's be honest, that's how they came about, the only real reason is to hide flaws. Most dress pipes, if you sand them down to the briar, I'm not going to say all, but a lot, you'll find it full of blemishes. So they'll usually use pipes which are no good for anything else. They'll fill cracks and scars and pits, sand it smooth, and then just give it a matte or shiny dress finish. But it'll be an opaque stain, so you don't see what's beneath. Alright, I think we're done. We're done here. There we go. That goes on the peg. Close the bottle. I've had one of those bottles go over, hence the black stain on my table, which is a wood-coloured table. I used to have a dress finish Stanwell. I don't think I have it anymore. Trying to remember. I haven't seen it for a while, so I think I must have sold it. I'll be honest with you, I can't really keep track of the pipes that I've bought and sold most of the time, to be perfectly honest with you. Right, where's my other pipe? This is my Blend 131 pipe. I do seem to be building up a little rotation of pipes of my own. That's done. Yeah, and to be honest with you as well, rusticated or sandblasted is going to smoke better. It's going to smoke cooler as well. A YTPC tribute pipe. Who am I paying tribute to? The YTPC generally? I'll never end. I'd have to make thousands of pipes. Should we have a banana before we get that pipe on the road? What's wrong with that? Does the job. I do have to think about something for 200. I think today's pipe is 177, if I'm not mistaken. There'll be a little hiatus when I go away. Cainrod, he goes through that big thing. What is it, Carter Hall? That he goes through? I think he smokes more Carter Hall than Haunted Bookshop, no? But I must be honest with you, I actually surprised myself how quickly I've gone through the... I don't recall any other tobacco that I've gone through tin after tin after tin. And I'm trying to remember how many tins I bought to start with, if it was 3 or 5 tins. But either way, this was the last tin. And I've just bought another 3. So this is the last tin of either 3 or 5 tins, I don't recall which. £2 bag. It's a stay pouch. Good night, Voodoo. Maybe a Tampa set would be an idea. A 3-star pipe, I can only make it a 3-star pipe if that's what the briar gives me. I can't predict that. It's a little bit sticky, this tobacco, I will say that. That's the Virginia with Perique. I have got an open jar of it. I must be honest, I'm not smoking them as much, the vapors as much as I was. I am enjoying the McClellan tobaccos, which I haven't smoked for a while. I'm almost finished my 14 Christmas Cheer 2014, but I've hopefully got another tin coming. Daniel, he was paying you a compliment. Take it as read. Ashton Brindleflake. I can hear noises, hang on. Oh, right. It's unbelievable how many different companies used McClellan tobaccos. So many. Savinelli Mike, how you doing? Morning to you. Absolutely, Daniel. I think all the people who do live videos are grateful to have you as part of the live, because you do a great service. You help keep the thing flowing. You ask your questions. It promotes discussion. They're good conversation starters. So never think that it's a negative thing. Definitely a positive thing, and I can tell you that as a live broadcaster. So I know that Mike appreciates it as well. I can't say at this stage whether I've got a dedicated shape. I did enjoy doing those sort of stubby Rhodesians for a while, and I'm sure I'll do more of those. They're very popular. They sold very well. I'm enjoying doing the egg shapes, like today's pipe. They're actually the egg shape is actually a very comfortable pipe to hold. I will say that. This one here is also a pretty large pipe. It sits in the hand so well. This little crook here as well is very good, and it just fills the hand very well. Even the smaller ones, same thing. It's just a great shape, same as an apple, but this one, because it's an egg, it's a little bit longer and it's a bit more bulbous, and it just fits in the hand really well. You end up with usually with thick walls. So just all round, it's a very good shape for pipe smoking, I think. Yeah, absolutely, Andrew. I agree with you totally. No, I haven't yet. I've done one bulldog with a diamond shank, which actually sold, but I sold it as a second because I really wasn't very happy with it, but a regular customer of mine wanted it. I think I sold it for literally half the price. The rest of the pipe was very nice. The bowl itself, it wasn't the problem. It was the diamond shank, which was a challenge for me. In terms of colour, James, yeah, I think you're right there. I mean, I've certainly hit a comfortable spot when it comes to staining. And it just works well. Sometimes there's a slight variation. I mean, this one has a little bit of an orange tinge to it to match the stem. No, the bulldogs are generally a diamond shank. Although you do get bulldog shaped pipes with round shanks, but you know, some people might call them a Rhodesian. But generally speaking, they've got diamond shanks. Classic bulldog is a diamond shank. LCS Roadie, absolutely, Josh. You still there? Oh, the package. I haven't shown you the package yet. So Jordan, Prairie pipe smoker, very, very kindly sent me a package which arrived today. So first off, he wrote me a note. G'day Simon, hope this finds you well. A month or so ago on one of your lives, I mentioned I would send you some small files like I use on my stems. It took a bit of time, but here they are. Also, I see you using tape on your drill bits, so I sent you along some bit stops. These are great for quick, reusable setups. Take care, Jordan. So, first off, he sent me a set of files. There's a lot of files in here. There's, I think, 10 files in here, and they'll definitely come in use. To be honest, they're actually very well timed because my set, one of them snapped the other day, and one of them, the ends of them, is buckled. So perfect timing, Jordan. If you do watch this back at some point, thank you very, very much. So those will be very, very useful. And then the next thing, which I've thought about trying to find something like this, and I've never seen them before, because it makes a lot of sense. And these are depth stops. So these, basically, it's a little ring. It's got a little grub screw in the side, and you just put that around your drill bit, tighten it at the point where you want to stop drilling. So with my the tenons that I drill, the mortises that I drill rather, I use the same drill bit every single time. So all I have to do is put one of those on there, and then I get exactly the right depth every time. So that's a very useful tool. Although today, which is what I mentioned much earlier on, is that I have started that's why I had the problem with the filter being stuck inside it, because I've decided with every pipe now to put a filter in and not drill the mortise all the way and just do it bit by bit, because I want to make sure that there's no piston action when you draw on the pipe, that the filter doesn't shoot backwards and forwards, which happens on a lot of pipes, not just mine. And with mine, I've kind of got the measurement right, but my early pipes definitely did have that piston action, and some of the recent ones could do as well. I won't deny that, but it's something that I want to overcome. So this will be a handy thing to use, but I'm not sure that it's going to be able to be a permanent setting, because it really depends on the depth of the drill in the stem. So that will dictate how deep the filter will go into the stem. Yeah, it's because it's, most people are gonna, unless you're gonna really make your pipes to a great degree of detail, you'll do what I've done till now, which is mark it off with tape, and I just do the same depth every single time. Hey, Phil. And some pipes, you'll get that piston action where the filter will shoot backwards and forwards as you draw, and some pipes it will fit better. So I'm trying now to ensure that doesn't happen as much as possible. By definition, because it's a moving part, there's always going to be a little bit of play, but this, if it's a tiny amount, you wouldn't notice it. How you doing, Phil? Just at the tail end now. I've made this pipe in my live session today. There's a stem for it, and it was modelled on a paper I made on a pipe that I'd made earlier, maybe a week or so ago. It is this one. Yeah, it's very similar, but this one I've made for myself. That's what I keep saying to myself, but we'll see in the final analysis if it ends up getting snapped up or not. But it is officially made for myself, so we shall see. Hopefully finish it tomorrow. Just enjoying a pipe with you guys, and we're 4 minutes to 3 in the morning, so Oh, and there was me thinking that the shaping was nice, Andrew. Interesting finish on those pipes, Phil. That sort of hatched finish, those lines. Was that a Hessian or something like that? Sandblasted through a Hessian sheet or something like that? Or a jointing tape? All the best, Daniel. It's a tamper made by Tree, BPR UK, in the old days. Remember the old handle, BPR UK? Which was short for Bosco Piper UK. Texturally, texturally, texturally. Throwback indeed. Throwback Saturday. It's a cool finish, Phil. It's really nice. It's inventive. It's the type of thing that would be done by machine if it was done in a factory. So it's really cool to get a finish like that. Oh, that's fine, Phil. No worries. You know, it's really hard nowadays to find your own niche. You know, to find something that you excel at and that's different, that's unique compared to other people. So something like that. No, that's fine, Phil. Absolutely fine. Something like that is perfectly understandable. It's why I don't do my final staining stage on live video either, because it's just the way I do it, and I want to keep something for myself. Trevor Talbot, as Andrew is saying, that finish he does, those carvings. I think I once asked him about the tools that he uses. He told me vaguely about the machine, the sort of one of these dental drills. I forget what they're called. Not Freedom, Fordham or something like that. But they're obviously much greater detail than Dremels. But I respected the fact that he wanted to keep some of that detail to himself. You know, everybody's trying to carve out a niche, a uniqueness, you know, in what they do. You can't share everything, and I totally respect that. It is Trevor Talbot, that does those carved pipes, you know, with the carved lines, the pencil lines almost. And I mean, how he does it so symmetrical, I've got no idea, but it looks absolutely amazing. Because if he does that by hand, it's phenomenal. I just can't see how that's possible. I'm kind of just thinking that maybe it's done by laser, because I don't know how that could be done by hand. You really think he does that by hand, Phil? And if he does, that's sensational. It really is. Amarelli is it? Pipes. They got that wheat carving that he uses. I think he calls it wheat something or other. Yeah, I think I saw that post as well, but I don't know. That might be just guides for. Yeah, no, you know what? I'm not going to argue. If he does it by hand, fantastic. Kudos to him. Yeah, this is one of mine. Nice plateau. This one would also do a great ring grain, sandblasted ring grain. You can see it's taking on some of the stain there. Yeah, I get that, Phil, but just the precision of it, the pattern, the symmetry, to be able to keep that steady without any fail, without any... It seems machine-made to me. As I say, if he's done that by hand, then he's really a truly great artist with unbelievably steady hands. I would imagine he's done with a cutting wheel of some kind, as opposed to a needle point. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Circular blade. So what's everybody got planned for the holidays? Any of you guys going on vacation? I'm going to be heading off to the countryside for a week. I've got a couple of functions beforehand, so that'll give us a bit of spending money. This is a block I was starting to sort of mark out on the block. Really nice plateau on this one. Holidays as in vacation. Well, yeah. If you do it on the, I see what you mean. It depends what the diameter of the cutter is, though. It would have to be a tiny little thing, you know, maybe a total diameter of 2 mil or something. So the cut is only 1 millimeter. I see what you mean. If they are as small as that, then maybe it's easier to cut. Two millimeter, yeah, right. Oh, you said that before, Phil. In the UK, vacation is called vacation as well, but it's known as holiday, going for a holiday, as opposed to a festival holiday. Literally days. Inner days. Oh my days. I've been cracking away at this pipe. It's already got quite a cake in there, and I don't usually build cakes that much, but it's got a good carbon layer anyway. We had quite a lot of rain here today, after a week of pretty good weather. Yesterday was really hot, but today was wet. Temperature came down in the afternoon. Yep, it's one of my own. And smokes very well. Well, almost 3:10, everybody. So I'm going to wish you all good night, good morning, good evening, good day. Time to get a nap. And tomorrow, hopefully tomorrow morning sometime, we'll get this pipe finished. So by the time I get to it, it'll probably have 6 to 8 hours to absorb. And we should get a decent contrast finish on that. So good night, everybody. Good night, Andrew. Good night, James. Good night, Josh. Good night, Phil. Good night, Pictures and More. Good night, Lord Hogarth. How you doing, Lord Hogarth? Didn't see you there. Good night, Jimmy. Good night, Daniel is already gone. Who else? Boss Hog. Savinelli Mike. Voodoo, if he's still there. And everybody else, thank you very much for joining. I see there's 25 people on, so I haven't said 25 names. I don't know who you all are, but thank you for joining. Very much appreciated. I appreciate you taking the time and keeping me company this evening. Jim Bob. Yes, John Boy and Grandpa. Good night, everybody. Have a great weekend. And I may well catch you tomorrow with that finished pipe. I may even light it up if I get to smoke it. Right, Josh? Thanks, everybody. Good night.